Aloha, children of the night, and welcome to the Tiki Goth Club. And today, well, I have a confession to make. I finally watched the 1992 version of Dracula.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, I'm a little
delayed there.
How many decades late am I to this thing?
About almost 3. How does that feel?
Oh my god.
3 decades late to one of the best versions of Dracula that ever hit the silver screen.
Do you think so?
I think so. In so many ways, and I'll go into deep depth of why I think that.
Well, I'm in defense of myself. I remember when the movie came out. It was the early 90s. And it's like Winona Ryder's in it. And Keanu Reeves is in it. And immediately I'm hearing reviews that like they're trying to do like an English accent. And it just doesn't work. And I'm like, well, this seems cheesy.
Keanu Reeves' whole performance in that reminds me of what would happen if somebody out of Hollywood came to me and said, here's a script.
Yeah.
Here's your role. Go for the Oscar. That would be my final product.
And
I would. The thing is Keanu Reeves. When you read about, he was in every movie. Around that period, he was doing so many movies at the time. Signed on to do Dracula. It was originally going to be Christian Slater.
Oh,
Francis Ford Coppola wanted like a teen heartthrob in that role.
Okay. He
wanted somebody that, and I quote, that when they see him in the airport, that's the guy they chase down. For Jonathan Harker, for that particular role, Francis Ford Coppola was zoning in on the Tiger Beat actors, and Keanu Reeves was the heartthrob at the time.
I think Christian Slater would have been a better. And I think Christian Slater totally would have been.
He was overworked, and yes, when he got to Dracula, he literally says, "I was so exhausted, I'm embarrassed by that role because I didn't have anything left to give." But he said he tried so hard, and Francis Ford Coppola said that he really tried on that accent, but. God damn.
I can do it.
It is a train wreck to watch.
I can do it.
It's like any time that I try to do any kind of an accent that isn't Pacific Northwest. You know, it's just, I've seen strange things already. Bloody wolves through some towering inferno.
But here's the thing.
Those wolves.
The thing is, like, but his performance is like unbelievable compared to Winona Ryder's, though.
Oh yeah, I mean he's fine. I mean he's doing what he's supposed to. Jonathan Harker isn't like some over the top character. He's Nina's. I think he's Nina's betrothed. He's Nina's. I think what are those people called?
See, I think
fiance.
I think to me it's like in that particular movie, you have Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. They're so like unique that it was hard for me to be like. Not be like, oh, there's Keanu Reeves, there's Winona Ryder, as opposed to like the characters being in the characters.
It's a period piece, and you can tell everybody there is bringing their A game, and you do have A-list actors in that movie.
The flip side, though.
The flip side is
Gary Oldman. Yeah. Oh my God! And here's the thing: like I've known of Gary Oldman for like a long time. I remember like this claim to fame is that he played Sid Vicious.
Sid Vicious.
You know, and he's always been in like a lot of movies that like He was Commissioner Gordon in The Bat?
That was later on down the road. But his early days, he was in a lot of off-the-wall roles. Yeah. I mean, the first one I saw him in...
No, he was in The Fifth Element. Yeah.
He's got
and in that one, it's like he's like has like a southern accent. He almost sounds like the guy from Primus.
Right.
And I remember like...
Claypool.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's sort of like... For like a long time, I don't even know like what he really looked like, you know?
Yeah, the thing about Gary Oldman is he was like an original man of thousand faces.
Yeah.
Like up until that point, I'd seen him in Sid and Nancy, and he played Sid Vicious.
Yeah.
And I remember he played a small part as Lee Harvey Oswald in JFK.
I can see that.
He went on, and the thing about Dracula is when I first saw Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman, I was then fascinated by that actor. And I think the movie that came out directly after that was True Romance where he played Drexel.
Oh,
And after that, I was just like, oh, this, I'm all about this guy, man, because he was doing different evil roles.
I honestly.
But then, he branched out, and then, he becomes Commissioner Gordon, and then he does Winston Churchill.
And he's one of those guys that, like, he's kind of like a chameleon, where he
and when he comes on screen, it's him, and he's doing something. Like the last movie I saw him in was Oppenheimer. He played President Truman, and he does it to a T.
I remember seeing the trailers for the movie, and they show him, but he's like old and gray, and he's these big ass white buns. Princess Leia buns on the back of his
very Japanese,
head. And you're like
walking around the castle in a kimono.
And I remember being like, he's supposed to be Dracula? That's not how I picture Dracula. And I think that turned me off to the whole thing, because I'm just so like, well, what the hell is this?
Well, the thing about that version of Dracula is that is the version from the book. He was decrepit, white, and old. Now, here's the only bullshit I call is Dracula can't see his reflection. How the fuck is he styling up that hair? How is he getting that quiff every day?
That's what the brides are for. That's what the brides are for.
The brides.
Come over here and comb my hair.
So give me my quiff. No, but up until that point, there's been several Dracula movies from the 30s up until now, and Dracula pretty much is always the same guy. Pompadour, slick back hair, handsome,
black cape,
charming. Because that's Bela Lugosi. That's the Dracula we know, and you don't mess with that version. Here comes this version, which is more true to the book, because in the book, other than he had a mustache, he was decrepit and skinny, and the whole idea was he needed to feed, and that's why by the time he gets to London after taking the voyage to the Demeter, he's fed on all these victims, and now he's vibrant and young and looking like John Lennon.
Yeah. Well, then I don't look like John Lennon. But laying all the things that I just laid out, I'm standing by like why I never got around to seeing it. But then like I was talking to you, and I think I talked to you like 2 years ago, and I remember like talking like,
and I said, what the fuck's the matter?
I'm like, how is that Bram Stoker's Dracula? I'm very skeptical, and like, you mean you haven't seen it? I'm like, no, and you're like, well, we gotta watch it. And I finally did, and I'm like, holy shit. It almost kind of reminded me of like the Joker in Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight. And it's like, because I remember like, having big shoes to fill with the Joker's role.
So up until that point, we only knew Jack Nicholson.
And
nobody could top Jack Nicholson.
And
then you watch The Dark Knight, and Jack Nicholson is definitely topped in that.
Yeah, and it's
it's a newer version.
He redid the role, and I realized like this is what Gary Oldman did with Dracula, and I loved it. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm like, I mean, it's probably one of the best performances I've seen of Dracula.
It's my opinion. It's one of the best. It is my favorite Dracula movie, and the reason why is because, first and foremost, you will never see a movie like that ever get made again.
No, wait, why do you say that?
It is the practical effects that they used in this movie. No CGI.
None.
It was all, I mean...
Well, 92, that makes sense.
The way they prepared for this role, the costumes. I mean, there is a movie that just recently came out that I think is going to sweep Oscars that reminded me of Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's called Poor Things, with Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe. And, again, movie that just uses practical effects, camera, angles, lighting, This movie just used practical optical effects. I think CGI, this was 92. I believe it got released in November of 92. Yeah. That summer was Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Oh, wow.
And that was like a big, that was like one of the first CGI movies. And everybody was blown away by that.
Yeah.
Bram Stoker's Dracula, there's not an ounce of CGI in that movie. And it has everything. It's got blood.
Oh, no, hold on.
It's got...
Well, how'd they do this? The shadows?
The shadows, those were actors in the background.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you could tell. They did a lot of theater.
Wow.
They did a lot of theater. So when you see, like, And you can tell it's another actor in the background. You could just see like a shadow standing there and then mimicking, and then it turns around and starts strangely. That's another actor. That's not CGI.
See, I thought that was like something that was like animated or something like
Absolutely
that.
not.
Wow,
They had like puppetry. They were doing puppetry, like the battle scene in the beginning with Vlad the Impaler. They used a lot of shadows.
Yes.
And then later on in the movie, when he's in the CinemaScope, the theater, you see like this puppetry of that battle, and that's what they were using. They were using a lot of these practical effects that they started at the beginning of filmmaking, you know. So they don't make movies like that anymore. They don't have acting like that. Like they corralled the actors together. They all read the book with Anthony Hopkins, and they were together. You just don't see that kind of interaction in film.
And it's a very artistic movie. It's a very beautiful looking.
It's beautiful. The costume design in that was is a Japanese costume designer, Eiko Ishioko. Japanese.
Yeah.
Forgive me. But that costume design pops right off the screen. And I recognized it again in another movie called The Cell in the early 2000s with Vincent D'Onofrio. Same production design, costumes. I saw them and I was like, that's Bram Stoker's Dracula's costume designer. Yeah. And sure enough, it was, because there's only one person that could do that, like that style. It just pops out at you. The production design, the music, the composer that did that music, it was like a Polish composer named Wojciech Kilar.
Yeah.
I'm fucking up names left and right. But anyways, the music in that is, and this was a guy who just did like stage music and stuff, but that is one of my favorite scores of all time. Dead Vampires, my band.
Yeah. We
used to walk out on stage to the theme of that, you know, because it's just so fucking powerful. The ding 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 ding. You know, there's just so much there's so much talent throughout that. I mean, even in the background noises, the brides, you hear their voices. That's Diamanda Gallis, that avant-garde piano player, singer. She's freaking nuts and amazing. That's her doing all those voices of the brides. And fun fact, when Dracula yells after he sticks the sword in the cross, that's Lux Interior screaming. That scream.
Really?
Yeah. When he goes, that's Lux Interior. Sofia Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's daughter, was a fan of the Cramps and said, this guy should be in Dracula. And Francis Ford goes, okay, I'll give him a part. Lux, yell, hog!
How the hell do I not, as a Cramps fan, how do I not know that?
I don't know.
Now,
you're not a Cramps fan.
I am a fucking Cramps fan. I was in a band with you. So, one thing I was doing a little bit of research, and from what I understand is, at that period of time, they were starting to try to like redo the classic monster movies, because there was Frankenstein, where Robert De Niro.
That came out 2 years later.
Yeah.
And that was Kenneth Branagh, and he did that came out 94. But that was Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein, and that was another very well done version of Frankenstein.
Yeah, the whole idea is like they were going to try to like redo all the classic horror movie monsters, and but I guess it didn't really take off as much as they wanted it to be.
Well, they were going to try and do that just recently when they started opening up all these multiverses, all these universes, like the Marvel universe and the DC universe. They were going to do the Dark World universal, and they were going to reinvent all the classic horror monsters. And they started with The Mummy with Tom Cruise, and that was a complete bomb. But you could see where they were trying to introduce. They had Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll. Johnny Depp was going to be the Invisible Man. I think Angelina Jolie was going to be the bride.
Yeah.
They had this whole world planned, but after The Mummy flopped, they just shit-canned it. And they actually have done these movies about 3 years ago, maybe 4. They did a version of the Invisible Man, modern version, a modern take on the Invisible Man, and it was well done. That was one of the better versions. It was, other than the original Invisible Man, the new one that came out in like 2020 was freaking excellent.
Well, as we're talking about this, it's like, because I remember I remember what Robert De Niro looks like as Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And again, you think Frankenstein, you think of Boris Karloff with the flat top, And it's just amazing. It just kind of is pretty impressive how the universal monster looks of like Dracula and Frankenstein. That it's like it's hard for people not to accept the different look.
Because those are iconic looks.
Yeah.
When you think of Dracula, the first thing that comes in your mind is Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
Think of Frankenstein, first thing that comes in your mind is Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
And that is all Jack Pierce. He was the makeup designer at Universal, and he created those looks based off his knowledge of the books.
Yeah.
He did all of them. He did the Wolfman. He did everything. He created Halloween.
Yeah.
Is what that man did. Jack Pierce.
How well did the movie do?
Oh, it was great.
It did do well? Okay.
Yeah, it was like the $40 million budget and probably made like 300. No, it was awesome. I remember when it came out. I remember Anthony Hopkins was riding high off Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
And you see him as Van Helsing.
Oh, he's great.
He's fantastic.
He's great.
He's Van Helsing.
He took that role on.
A lot of great. You know, they had Carrie Elways. He played one of the suitors for Lucy.
Yeah.
They had a great sex scene in there when Dracula wolfs out and seduces Lucy.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the closest I've become turned on by bestiality.
I really honestly think I bet you like Danzig saw that and was like, all that right there.
That's my career.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, you know, he's been seducing Mina this whole time. After he finally seduces her, he's like, okay, I'm going to condemn you. You're going to be my long-lost love and my bride for life. And then she shows up at the castle. Wait a minute. Who are these three other bitches? What do you got going on here?
That's the thing. I should make a video about your cat.
Oh, God.
Oh, Batsy, she's a character.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. She's not like a boring fat cat that just sits around and just eats. It's like there's always something. See, when she's curious about the world, I mean, and I've never seen a cat. She'll bounce around like a kangaroo.
Yeah.
I've never seen a cat do that, where they just get up and they just.
Like the whole body flies straight.
It's
up.
hilarious. like something smacks her in the ass, and she just goes boing out of nowhere. She just has some fucking neuron misfire between those ears.
Oh, here she goes.
You know, well, no, you know how it is. It's like the cat's kind of like browsing around, you know. It's kind of like when a young teenager wants to buy a porno magazine. It's like you don't go right for the magazine and pay for it. You kind of like, you look around,
Like
maybe get some...
You know who the shoplifter is.
Licking for some chewing gum.
There we go. It's like, like, what's going on up here?
God. No,
It doesn't end. She's sitting there all sedated.
Yeah, like
She looked like she just smoked the bowl.
Like not even giving two shits about
And
anything.
then right when we start going, now she's checking shit out. I can see that look in her eye. Like,
her back is twitching.
well, it isn't a show unless she interrupts it.
The Tiki Goth Club is way more than just this YouTube program. It's also a club that you can join. For $15, you can become a member of the Tiki Goth Club. You get your own membership card with your own number. I'll send you a couple stickers and a pin. I also have shirts for sale, patches, and glasses. If you're interested in any of this, head over to my website, tikigothclub.com, and everything's there for you.